Okay, guys, welcome back to the channel. Glad you guys have been enjoying a lot of my content recently. I crossed the 20,000 subscriber threshold, so thanks for watching all this time. And I welcome all the new ones and probably a lot of analog guys, because recently there was a lot of analog focus from Joe's visit, his amazing system, as well as the Zoom with Michael Fremer and JR. That resonated really well with you guys. I want to thank them for joining me. And that's really what my channel is all about. And really, I'm so proud of the 20,000 threshold, because I never thought I could do a channel that's not a Me Too review. You know, how many more boot cart and clips reviews did we need? I thought maybe I could do something different, be under the radar. And yeah, I'm still a relatively small channel, but I'm so happy that this many people it resonates with, and it's more than just the gear, that people are interested in watching an hour-long Zoom. I know for some people that hour-long Zoom is too much. That's why I've been releasing YouTube Shorts, and I'll continue to do that with little excerpts from that. So those of you that can just digest in a lot smaller time frame, that may help you guys get some of the gist of that Zoom. But if you can watch the whole thing, that was great. I have still more stuff from Joe's house. I've got stuff still from Italy to give you. Tons of stuff. I got to get to work. But that's why I'm going to kill two birds with one stone with this video. So in this video, I'm going to actually, JR is going to make another appearance, because he was in town working on a person's system, doing a consulting arrangement. And guess what? He came to my home, which he's done before, and you've seen it on the channel. And what's great about JR is that, number one, he's got a very high acumen, believes in physics, science, measurements, has worked on some of the million-dollar systems I've featured, some of the best systems in the entire world, very close confidant of Michael Fremer. And so he has exposure and acumen that most people don't have. And so when he comes back to my room, I'm going to listen to his feedback. Not that I don't value other people's feedback too, but sometimes it's very easy to impress a new audiophile, but one that has heard the best that there is out there and dedicates a lot of time to science, measurements, and perfecting things to the nanomillimeter in LP playback. I like to hear what he thinks, especially when it's digital, not even in, you know, he's not predisposed to it. So when you hear words like remarkable and stuff like that, he does not throw these around. And that's what I like to get. And he's come out at different iterations. So you're going to hear his feedback, as well as, I thought it was just going to be a YouTube short. I filmed it vertically, so I apologize. But we ended up finding some stuff with Bach while I was filming with him that I wanted to showcase at the same time. So any of you Bach users, you're going to see something really cool about how good this Bach is from determining ear pinna stuff, as well as issues with your speaker. Fixes it. And part of the reason why JR was so impressed, I think, as a whole, and how my system has progressed with no Bach, Bach with crosstalk, and then Bach with ORC, you're going to get that feedback. Killing two birds with one stone, though, I want to hurry up and address the other common question I got after that Zoom. Everybody's asking me, why didn't you argue digital versus vinyl with Fremer and JR? You had them there on the, why didn't y'all do the typical, what everybody would think we would talk about? But guys, number one, did you watch the Zoom? They pretty much did the argument for me of why you want to be digital instead of analog. I'm somewhat joking, but I mean, they're talking about to the nanomillimeter, and even the test records could be cut wrong. So even if you have the theoretically perfect arm, which doesn't exist, you use JR's tools, which can get you very close to as perfect as possible. But then the record itself could be cut wrong. Or then it could be a poor quality record that needs the record restoration on top of all of these things. I mean, from a format, there really isn't a reason for me to argue anymore format-wise. And then when you talk about other metrics other than sound quality, talk about convenience, cost, playlist accessibility, even eco-friendliness now. Evidently, the environmentalists are on all the vinyl guys because vinyl is not eco-friendly and the paper label on it. So, as you heard in that Zoom, they are coming out with injection molded albums that are not vinyl anymore. And then they're etching the label on the top to be more eco-friendly. So all the things that vinyl has to deal with kind of make the case for digital. However, I'm actually going to come to the analog guy's defense here. I'm intellectually honest enough to say that, yes, on all these metrics, easily digital. I'm happy to be digital, even more so than ever based on what I hear these guys have to go through. But if you watch Joe's video, the last one I did with music clips, you're going to see a problem with digital that I was not happy with. I heard one of the clips where it was analog tape rip, and you could tell in that video I wasn't that happy with it. And I wanted to figure out why. And because the other ones did sound really good. And it turned out that all the benefits of the analog tape and a good recording and the vinyl version of it sounded to me better, it was all sabotaged by compression. So with analog, guys, look, one of the things I also kind of chuckle to myself when I'm listening, they're worried about the nanomillimeter stuff, tracking error, all these bearing slop and all this kind of stuff they're talking about. But they can't even get rid of ticks and pops totally. Well, Michael Fremer said he does, but he's got a $200-something thousand turntable and Kirmus record restoration. It's not realistic. Most every rig I've heard has ticks and pops. I hope they could get rid of ticks and pops before worrying about the nanomillimeter. However, I'm going to be intellectually honest here and say, as bad as that is, and when I hear a tick and pop, it's a problem for me. I basically consider that remastering. Because even your grandmother can hear a tick and pop, so it's not even requires an audiophile to hear a negative thing with vinyl. However, when I heard that compression, and then I also linked a site that shows you recordings now, that even modern recordings like the Adele one, the streaming version has lower dynamic range. Despite the advantages of the format that could give you more than vinyl, it has lower dynamic range, the streaming version of her latest album, even lower than YouTube. And the LP is the best. And so I can easily see a case where if you give me a record that doesn't have a lot of ticks and pops and superior dynamic range, I will definitely choose that over digital. I have no problem admitting that. And like I've said, I've been to some amazing homes. Rick Brown, he had an amazing dome and turntable. My friend Doug, I can admit that, and analog tape as well. I've heard many great ones. It's not about arguing the formats. From a format perspective, yes, the metrics are pretty heavy now in all these different realms, almost a landslide for digital. But for sound quality, it still sometimes comes down to the mastering. And the devil's in the details. So it's not about arguing with these guys what's better or what's worse in a generality standpoint. The market's already spoken on that. And even within the digital realm, people that want to do art, DSD or MQA, the market has spoken on that stuff, guys. For the most part, even if you are obsessed with still MQA or whatever it is, DSD, and the baseline performance, and a lot of people would argue you can't even hear the difference, but even whatever delta you do hear in the difference is not enough to sway you big one way your enjoyment of the music. So there is a baseline now in digital that has a very high floor. Can analog still surpass it? I will readily admit it can, with the right recording and a low noise floor album and playback mechanism that's calibrated well. What are the odds of that happening? There's very few people that get JR's calibration, the type of turntables, cartridges, tone arms, that can do it. But I'll acknowledge, I've heard it. I've been to $1 million systems where they are all vinyl, and I definitely see why they are. So I just wanted to give that little two for one in this video, address that common question I got FAQ from the last video. And here's JR in my system, and I'll be back with plenty more soon to come. We were just talking about Charles's awesome little
bunny,
his little pet.
Everywhere.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome having two vinyl gurus, some of the best people in the hobby, period, in my room this week. And JR has actually been to my house, unlike Charles, several times. So, JR, you've heard the involvement over time. What were your general thoughts?
Oh yeah, this is I remarked to you earlier that it's remarkable how far your system has gone from the first time I visited you. I visited you before you had the Bach, and you're working on DSP, and together we learned a lot of stuff about what you had here and what more could be done. And then of course with the advent of Bach, it just puts so much more power and control over your hands. And yeah, absolutely remarkable what you've done here. Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah,
this is really enjoyable.
Yeah, I want to show you guys something real quick. Let me change the screen here. We measured JR, and he's got some of the best measurements in my room that we've had in terms of, I guess his ears are very symmetrical and everything. Let's go to see this real quick. We were showing, this is something I want to show you guys something real quick. When ORC corrects for your ear pinna, it doesn't do a whole lot, but a lot of people wonder, at least I did, and Edgar said it was a good question. It's like, how does it know the difference between an error in your speaker at these higher frequencies where you see it's a much more, because it's binaural, it's not going to be flat like a normal. These quasi-free field under 1,000 hertz are, but once your torso and your ear impact the frequency response, this is going to look like this. And I asked him, well, what if it's just how do you know whether it's your ear or your speaker that's got a problem in those areas? And it's much more complex than what I'm going to describe here, but he says it's a good question because that's where a lot of the secret sauce is in being able to determine what humans hear in their ear pinna and how those frequencies get to our ears and the wavelengths, but also how it's still smart enough to know a speaker issue versus an ear pinna natural that it doesn't want to correct for. And if you notice down here, this is the filter. This is what the filter is doing down here. This is the actual response, and this is the filter. And one thing that we were looking at is the GR Research frequency response, sure enough, has a peak right here at around the same point where the Bach is figuring out that it needs to fix it right here. It's bringing it down. So that was really pretty impressive to me to actually see it in action compared to quasi-anechoic conditions, what it measured. But then JR, like his ears are so symmetrical in terms of crosstalk cancellation, 8, almost 9 dB on both identical. This is very difficult to get. This is the amount of crosstalk. And this is his frequency response in ear at the listening position and then the ear pinna. Really amazing.
Yeah, I've been complimented many times about how symmetrical it is.
Now, you got one thing to put on your Tinder profile if you were single.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I've always been teased about how small they are.
Now they work to your advantage. We don't need to get you a special cowboy hat. You're already perfect ears. All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming by, JR. And maybe some new project coming up soon. I'll announce those when we can.